Okay, so I did activities to promote language development in 3 to 5 year olds through the 5 stages of language development. And so for some skills developed through semantics at ages of 3 years old, there are a couple skills that are added around the 40 to 46 month old range, and these are the additions in speech of past tense verbs, and they will start to use these verbs in their normal speech. And they will also start to use a lot of third person verbs as well. And so a possible like game or activity that could be good to advance these uses in speech could be like the use of a memory game. So like like the remember which spot a certain card is at, or remember or find the matching cards or something of that sort. And then and this will help again them this will help them getting used to using these words in sentences. And so the skills developed at semantics for ages 4 and 5 are that the child is able to start forming 5 word phrases, and this also could use the past tense verb proficiently without needing help. And an activity you can try for the 5 word phrases are board games that require questions to be asked, so the child has to read the same phrases that they are saying. And then also for the using past tense verbs proficiently would maybe be you could use a board game for that as well, possibly. Having them talk about like maybe just having them talk about what happened earlier in the game, maybe to sorts. So so skills developed through syntax and morphology at age 3, or the child will start to use a negative in between the noun and verbs, so they'll start to say phrases like mommy no go or daddy not eat. And they will start to use rising intonation to ask a question. And this could be seen in different ways. In some ways to work on this through an activity or playing like a guessing game or any kind of game that will lead them to having it to have them asking you a question about what you're talking about, because this would get them to use that negative in the sentence. So that would be the activity for that. And the skills developed through syntax and morphology at age 4 are they start to use a variety of complex types, sentences, structures, and they start to evolve during the stage. And the use of compound sentences, as in my shirt is red and white, or mommy took me to the store and to get food today. And they will also start to use simple infinitives in their speech, like I want to draw. And activities that can help with this would be reading books with them, that has the child involve all of these styles of sentences in them, and you can also have them recite it to you to further implant it in their brains. And for the same for syntax and morphology at age 5, there is the later developing morphemes are starting to acquire, including the be verbs, regular past, and third person. And passive sentences are understood and are able to be used. So an activity would be games that are played by children. So you could say this could be as tag, where you could use regular past when you're talking about whose turn it is, whose turn it could be, and you might also use talking third person as a narrator of how the game is being playing out for fun. So some skills developed through phonology at age 3 is around this age the child will start to realize the meaning of rhyme. So they'll start to know how words work and sound the same and work with each other. And children say around this age really don't have any other phonological skills. They will start to learn most of the skills at age 4 to 5. So a good game you can play for the rhyme phonological skill would be peekaboo. I haven't really been for sure about this. Or you could also do nursery rhymes, which would also be very good too to recite to them. So at 4 and 5, the skills do phonology, or they start learning phonological processes and begin to rapidly develop. They start to be able to count and identify syllables, and they hear and create their own onset sounds like B for bat and book, and segment onset sounds like blends like C erk plus at is cat. And there are all sorts of activities to do for counting syllables. There are the kinds where you pick out a card and you have to say the word and count the syllables for the onset syllables. You could do an activity of making your own rhymes to remember the words. So some things with pragmatics at age 3, or they will learn to assume other roles during playing, and they acknowledge the speaker while they're talking. So saying like, yeah and yes, or by nodding their head in during conversation. And they also request permission to do things. And some activities you can use are the use of board games for almost all these activities, because you can assume another role in a game, you can listen to someone explain the rules, and you can request permission to move your piece on the game board if you wouldn't even go that far with it. And skills developed with pragmatics at age 4 and 5 are the uses of language to discuss feelings and emotions more often, and they start to use indirect requests, as in like I'm hungry, to request food, because they don't know to ask for food, they just know to say I'm hungry. And telling stories start to acquire a sense of being able to tell a sequence of events to people. So some activities that can take place for these would be the use of role playing, and we used to all act out in movies so they could use to tell the stories. They could also use the role of playing doctor to ask indirect questions, as well as they can let their emotions out in this form of using role playing. And so with all these activities used in this presentation, this could be used to help with the advancement of speech, and they mostly involve the use of board games or just playing with friends. And if you use friends and games you might have at home, then there will always be a resource for you to help the child with furthering the development of their speech. And then I will turn this around. Well, I can't turn it around, but here are my references.